Welcome everyone. So my name is Paul Foster and I head up Skylan Recruitment. Now today we're going to run our series on our SaaS leaders, and it's a chance really just to shine a spotlight on people that have contributed massively to the SaaS landscape. Now today I'm delighted to say we've got somebody who knows all about the SaaS landscape, certainly in sales. He's had 10 years experience within sales. And he's worked his way up to the point now where he's the SDR manager for EMEA for a startup business in the UK. So I'd like to welcome yourself, John. Thanks ever so much for your time today. How are you doing?
No problem. Very well, mate. Very well. Thanks for having me.
Good news. So John, tell me a little bit about your, so the company you work for is reputation.com. So for our viewers' benefit, can you give us a bit of an idea of exactly what reputation.com is and what they're about?
Yeah, no problem. So reputation.com is the only complete holistic online reputation management platform available on the web. Essentially, it's backed by the same sort of venture capitalists as Microsoft, Cisco, Facebook, currently in Series D funding. And essentially, it's the only tool you need to ensure that as a business, as an enterprise business with multiple locations, you're always putting your best foot forward at all times on the internet, no matter where the customer may find you.
Perfect. So this platform then, it focuses purely on the enterprise?
Yeah, I mean, for now, the core focus is an enterprise market. Obviously, it will work in the SMB space as well. However, it's a piece of software that helps you aggregate a lot of actionable insights and different review data that may live online. So essentially, it comes into its own when you're a multi-location business trying to look after hundreds of thousands of social pages and review pages. And this is where the tool really becomes vital and useful.
Brilliant. So I understand then from previous discussions that part of the business was to expand throughout the US, and then part of their European expansion was to literally look at enterprise logos within the UK and Europe. And that's where you came in, is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So 3.5 years ago now, I joined the business as one of the first 5 through the door. Founded the business in the European space, in the EMEA space. Essentially, it was just me, a couple of sales guys, finance manager, and a marketing guy who first joined the business. And from there, we grew massively over the last 3.5 years. Yeah. Brilliant.
So let's take that back then, because there's some really good details. So when you joined the business, there was how many staff were there?
There were just 5 when I first
joined. 5, right, okay. And in terms of logos, did they have any enterprise logos in at that time?
Just the one. We had quite a large real estate company or estate agents. Belvoir Property Group was the only notable enterprise client to speak of. So yeah, that was essentially my role. I was brought into the organisation to help the now managing director of Europe penetrate the UK enterprise market and go after the largest logos in the UK and Europe, starting with the top 100 by way of location count, and working our way through that for the first 6 to 12 months of my time at the business.
Brilliant. Well, there'll be a lot of founders and certainly heads of B2B SaaS platforms that are watching this. So you joined as an SDR in an SDR function. And then in terms of, I suppose, your key challenges at that point, talk me through that. What exactly was you brought on to do?
Well, essentially for me, it was a little bit of a backward step in terms of my career, because prior to joining Rep.com, I ran my own small business and was a field sales representative in my own right. But I liked the project that Anthony sold to me at Rep.com to be involved with a tech startup, as I say, backed by the same backers as Microsoft, Facebook, Google. It was an opportunity I couldn't turn down. So it was my role to come in and basically find the best route to market for our solution and position the product correctly at the right level first time with some of the largest enterprise organisations in the world, brands like Toyota, Mazda, Kia, to name just a few from the auto space.
And these clients, they're not easy to they're not easy to sell to, because obviously their size.
Yeah.
You started off on your own, but then you quickly gained traction. So talk me through that journey. You was on your own. How long before? Well, how big did you grow your team?
Okay, so to begin with, the first 12 months of the business, it was myself booking for 2 field sales representatives. So I was booking around 26, 27 meetings a month, keeping the guys busy. Managed to get into 48 of the top 100 businesses by way of location count within that period. And due to the success and the formula that I've found, which I believe is foolproof now, it's been rolled out across Europe, across 8 different members of staff now, and everybody seems to be doing pretty well to this day. Everybody's still hitting target, smashing target in some cases. So it seems to be a winning formula that I hit on.
Okay, you made that sound really easy, that you build a team. But I know, and everyone knows, that finding the right SDR is crucial for the sales function at enterprise level. So talk me through them. So when it comes to recruitment and building a team, what skills and traits are you looking for? Ultimately, how do you make sure that the guys you recruit are going to perform and help you achieve target?
Well, you hear different things, don't you, about what makes a good SDR, what makes a good manager. But from my perspective, I'm looking for somebody with potential. I'm looking for somebody with hunger. I'm looking for somebody who's looking to develop, who's looking for an opportunity. And I do like to look for elements of myself as well in the team. I know sometimes people talk about having a variation of characters, but at the same time, for me, it tends to be a young, ambitious, hungry person who's looking to progress through that sales role, if you like, into a field sales role or be a manager, whatever it may be. But it is purely talent and potential that I'm looking for, as opposed to the finished article. And from there, I think it's a lot easier to implement best practice and to impart the knowledge that you've got and sort of adopt that cookie cutter approach to basically all working in a uniformed way, in the way that we know is successful, in the way that we know works. I think if you can, especially from a KPI perspective, if you can all be working in exactly the same way and you can adopt the same approach, it becomes a lot easier, to train the staff. You can do group training sessions and bring them all through together. And B, monitor productivity and this sort of thing. I mean, sometimes you might have a guy who's really good on email and a guy who's really good on calls, and you might see one guy knocking 60 emails out and a guy knocking 60 calls out. And you don't really know who's working hard or how to compare that. You've only got the results. So I think if you've got this uniformed approach and everybody's working the same way, it makes it very easy to find out who's hiding, who's cheating in some cases, and who's doing really well, so that we can take that best practice and we can ensure that everybody else in the team is following suit.
Good news. So I understand that, but if you think about core, because I understand about an SDR with the hunger and the passion, determination, but what would you say are the hard skills? Essentially, what skills do they have to have ready?
So to expand on that, it was they need to be analytical, they need to be thorough in their approach, they need to be curious, and also very, very, very good with people. This is the key attribute. If you can't hold a conversation with me in an interview, or you can't present yourself well in front of an executive from within the organisation, and you can't hold a conversation, you're not going to do very well as an SDR. So one of the core attributes is having that wit, being sharp and personable, and being able to basically put somebody at ease and have a good conversation with somebody right from the outset. So obviously confidence is key as well. You need to be confident and outgoing. This is the sort of thing that I look for when I first meet somebody.
So tenacity obviously is a given, because ultimately you've got to be able to keep on going to get to meet the KPIs. In terms of, again, thinking about other early stage B2B SaaS companies that are out there that could be watching this, again, everyone's got their own approach, but in terms of KPIs, you can we can set KPIs in many different formats, but what do you think are the key, what KPIs should people be adopting to ensure success for an early stage?
So from my perspective, I'm not massive on KPIs. I'm not big on numbers for numbers' sake.
Okay.
I much prefer quality over quantity. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm not here to employ busy fools. Not here to have down monkeys picking the phone up and doing the same thing over and over and expecting the same thing, different result. So from my perspective, it's more a case of first results. If the results are there, I don't even look at the KPIs. But to give a benchmark, I used to look at 40 quality activities a day. And that could be made up of 20 emails and 20 calls, or 30 emails and 10 calls, whatever that may be. But 40 quality activities, I think, if you're pushing out 200 quality activities a week, that's 800 a month, and you target to do 15 meetings. If it's 800 quality activities, you target to say 15, 20 meetings. If you can't get 15, 20 meetings from 800 activities, then unfortunately, I don't think you're very good in the role. So I think that's sufficient in my opinion.
Perfect. So in terms of your SDRs, they would be prospecting. So, I mean, we've talked about this previously. When prospecting, you would definitely approach 3 personas within each enterprise to ensure that there's some level of success.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So essentially what we look to do is initially to take web.Com as an example. So it's thorough research to begin with, both on the company and on the personnel within. Especially in a software environment, you'll find that there are lots of different stakeholders that you can speak to. I'm not one for working leads. I believe in working accounts at account level. So I used to say to the guys, look, work 4 to 6 accounts a day. But I want you to target 10, 12 people within that organisation. I want you to structure your email in such a way that you can position it with the C-suite, director level, right the way down to an influencer level, manager level maybe. But depending on which industry we were looking at, which vertical we were targeting, obviously different people have different responsibilities and different decision-making capabilities. So it was always good to adopt that same approach, regardless as to who we were going after. But one of the little tricks that we used to employ was to essentially look for a departmental hierarchy.
Yeah.
We'd include the director or the main decision maker as a CC, but send the email to the manager concerned, whose role it was to actually look after the sort of things. So we find some problems, we find some challenges, we'd identify these, put them together in a nice presentation, and include all levels of the hierarchy, just to make sure that we created a little bit of urgency maybe in the manager, and also maybe alerted the director to take action at the same time. So instead of firing off individual emails to one person and hoping they get through, if you include 2 or 3 people, no more than 2 or 3, I would say, then it becomes spam. If you're knocking out to 2 or 3 people, that gives you 3 chances for the price of 1, So we found that to be a very, very, very fruitful approach.
Good news. So in terms of tools, there's a huge amount of tools for salespeople these days, whether it's sales automation, software tools. In the SDR function, which ones would you suggest have been the most effective for you and your team?
Okay, so from my perspective, I like the fact that in our world in particular, a lot of the information that we need is attainable through just basics. So obviously LinkedIn, social media, whatever that may be. So I like the guys to do deep research and use LinkedIn Sales Navigator and this sort of thing. But from a more high level perspective, and if you want quicker results, direct dials, this sort of thing, some programs we've used in the past that proved effective for us were Upstream. That was a really cool solution, gave us good insight on the person, the type of characteristics they display in their email, how they seem to talk and this sort of thing, which allows you to tailor your approach a little bit more. I also used Outreach, which was quite cool. So realistically, from a lead generation perspective, I don't think there's anything better than doing your own research, making a call through trying to obtain that telephone number via making a phone call to head office first, or trying to obtain that direct dial through trial and error, because I do believe buying data is a risky business. People leave, the number changes. You might have a data set 6 months old, and you can't use it again 6 months later. You pay £20,000, £30,000 for the data in some cases.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, you can't beat that old-fashioned research and picking up the phone and asking the questions. But from a software programmer's perspective, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, absolute must.
Yeah.
Upstream really adds to that and gives you that extra level of insight. And outreach allows you to tailor your approach and put an email together and really work through that sales workflow, if you like. So those 3 tools I found really useful for my team.
Perfect. And then lastly, to understand the way you guys worked, would you always link one SDR to one enterprise sales manager, or could you have a variation? What do you feel works best?
So it was something in the early days that I found worked very well, purely on the basis that any good field sales representative during his downtime should also be picking up the phone and trying to sell to a point, in my opinion. It was something that I demanded of the enterprise sales managers at reputation.com. So I'd make sure one of the guys would come in at least 1 day a week into the office for an afternoon or a morning, look over the key accounts of the SDR, try and do a little bit of knowledge sharing as to what they tried before and the personas they tried before, and maybe attempt from a different seniority level, if you like, to an SDR to go into some of the accounts that the guys had worked. And I found that one-to-one approach was a lot more effective in the early days. Obviously, once you've got a number of clients on board and your team's growing and you reach a level where you've got 7 or 8 enterprise sales managers and 7 or 8 SDRs, you can be a little bit more flexible with that. Some guys are busy knocking proposals, contracts, going out meeting customers for large deals, upsells, this sort of thing. So to stringently stick one-to-one can be quite difficult, but as long as you've got that relationship managed between both the SDRs and the ESMs, and it's like that sort of group approach, if you like, that family approach, we're all going to the same thing. Yeah. What you'll find is the ESMs will pass meetings to each other, the SDR will pass it to other ESMs, not just their own. So yes, I would say work from the one-to-one, that works really well. However, obviously as you grow as a business, you need to be a little bit more flexible. So having that base though, the one-to-one approach really allows you to work together in tandem and have that relationship with your SDR that you obviously won't get from working just with a random distribution of meetings, you know.
Perfect. Well, I tell you what, John, that's been great. That's certainly given us some massive tips and insights for other people that are either managing SDR teams, they are perhaps a founder that wants to create that function ready for their enterprise sales managers. So I thank you for that. We'll obviously catch up and perhaps do another video series, perhaps in the next 12 to 18 months, just to see where you are then. But from us here, thanks ever so much.
No problem at all, Paul. Thanks very much for your time. Much appreciated.
Take care. Bye.
Have a nice evening. Bye-bye, mate. Bye-bye.